Hello and welcome back to Story Time with the Bard. So, we're going to go back to the book I wrote, the Royal Storybook, and we're going to do a new story this time. This one is called The Foolish Maiden. So, pay close attention because there is a moral involved in this particular story. Here goes. Long, long ago, in the Persian Empire, there lived a young maiden that anyone reasonable could attest to her selfish, arrogant ways. Her name was Raka. She was very much well-to-do, and she owned land and a palace in the western kingdom where she lived. Furthermore, she was very beautiful. She used her beauty and wealth to treat the poor and many others like animals, as if they were beneath her. She was like this as a child, but her parents, who were both dead and were not much different, let her be. Alas, her behavior has made her seem undesirable to men looking for wives, and she is constantly lonely, with only her lowly servants to keep her company. Lo, one day, the prefect of the kingdom sent out a decree to all eligible maidens that the emperor was hosting a feast in the capital city of Susa, and that their presence was requested. Soon after, a rumor spread throughout the entire kingdom that the emperor had been looking for a woman to be his queen. Raka, who received the invitation, was overjoyed when she heard the rumor. She knew of his charm, dignity, and undesirable good looks, and even though they had never met, she was quite smitten with him. She instantly packed her most glamorous robes and placed her most treasured jewels in a box. Then she organized a caravan and traveled to Susa. During the trip, she began to wonder what she would say and how she would conduct herself in front of His Majesty. She knew his likes and dislikes, so she figured she would find favor in his eyes by telling him what he wanted to hear and doing what he expected her to do. Her biggest task was to make the emperor fall in love with her so that he would take her to be his queen. How wonderful it would be to be the queen of the most powerful empire in the world, she thought. When she approached Susa, she found it to be the grandest city she ever saw. Finally, a city worthy of me, she thought to herself. When her caravan reached the gates to the emperor's citadel, one of his trusted eunuchs came to greet her. "Welcome to Susa, milady," he bowed. "I will show you where your quarters will be." Raka nodded politely and turned to her lady-in-waiting. "This is Anova. You may give her your instructions." She then turned to her servants. "Do whatever Anova tells you. I will not tolerate being embarrassed in a foreign land. Understood?" "Yes, lady," they humbly replied. "I am going to admire the gardens. Anova, send a servant after me when my quarters are prepared." She turned to her most trusted guard. "Selah, you will walk behind me." She quickly turned and began walking. "Yes, lady," he trailed after her. In the middle of their walk, Raka abruptly turned to Selah. "Selah, I am giving you the same instructions I gave Anova. You must report to me at once if one of the servants misbehaves or makes any mistakes. That rogue will then be flogged." "Yes, lady," said Selah. "It is very important that we make a wonderful impression on the emperor. He is looking for a wife. No man could ever ask for a woman as desirable as me. But mistakes could cloud his judgment. No man back home could appreciate me, and, quite frankly, none of them were truly worthy of me. Perhaps I have remained a maiden for so long because I am destined to be queen of the Persian Empire. It must be. I have never even met the emperor, but I can tell we are a perfect match. Even so, all of you must be on your best behavior." "Yes, lady," answered Selah. You all are, after all, extensions of me. If you look bad, so do I. But if I become queen, all of you will be rewarded. I may even coax the emperor to put you above all palace guards. I know you would like that." "Yes, lady," said Selah. "Good," answered Raka. The next evening, the emperor, his nobles, and all of the invited guests met in the palace hall for the feast. As they were dining, the emperor began the conversation. "My loyal subjects, we know you're wondering why we invited mostly unmarried women." All of the women smiled knowingly. "We are always looking for ways to improve the conditions of all the people in every kingdom and protectorate under my control. We have heard the perspective of all types of men and the married ladies we have come into contact with. Throughout history, these are the only people who advise their rulers. However, no one ever thinks to ask maidens for their opinions. But you indeed matter. Therefore, we command you to tell us, what do you think can be done to strengthen the Persian Empire? Do not be afraid to show us your hearts." All of the maidens were surprised and confused, but the emperor waited patiently. Finally, a maiden spoke. "Your Grace, perhaps if each kingdom did not pay the same tribute to the emperor's coffers, but paid what it could truly afford. Some of your kingdoms are less well off than others." The emperor raised his eyebrows, and one of his nobles turned away in anger. "Blasted women," the nobleman muttered under his breath. The maiden immediately began to tremble. "Please forgive me if I have offended your Grace. I am terribly sorry." "No, no," replied the emperor. "We are not offended at all. That is a very considerate suggestion. Thank you for your honesty and your bravery." The maiden bowed politely. Another maiden spoke. "If it pleases your Grace, I believe that there should be soldiers stationed in the countryside. not just in the cities. There are so many soldiers in the city that no one would dare even steal a crumb. In the countryside, every family must defend itself. We try the best we can, but we are country people, not trained militia. We often find ourselves outnumbered by evil yet skilled bandits who steal our crops and even break into our houses to do what they will with us and our possessions. We have heard, replied the emperor, about what sometimes happens in the country, and we and our advisors have been thinking of ways to control the ambushes. Has this affected your family? Yes, your grace, the maiden answered. Last harvest, bandits raided our olive grove. They ran off with half of its olives. We will certainly consider your suggestion, said the emperor. As Raka listened to the maidens and watched the emperor's expressions, it dawned on her that the conversation was more like a contest. Surely the woman with the cleverest idea will become queen, she thought. Well, not only am I superior in wealth and beauty, I am superior in intelligence. I know what to say to win him over. Your Grace, Raka spoke up, I was wandering through the gardens outside the citadel the other day when I noticed that there were so many poor, hungry beggars about. In fact, they are all over Susa. It saddens me that in the capital city of the world's most powerful empire, people are starving. Your observations are intriguing, said the emperor, smiling. Yes, the beggars are our subjects too, just like everyone else. What is your name? I am Raka, she replied, and I hail from the west. Maiden Raka, said the emperor, what do you suggest as a remedy to this poverty you have noticed? Perhaps, said Raka, a portion of your tributes could be used to supply food for them, if anything. Possibly, the most fortunate could be urged to share a tiny portion of their wealth with them. After all, it is the responsibility of the rich to show mercy towards the poor. She immediately bowed her head and covered her mouth, shocked at her own words. We like your suggestion, said the emperor, but how could we urge our wealthy subjects to give away some of their riches, even a tiny portion? Should we impose a higher tax on them? No, your grace, said Raka, but perhaps you could slightly lower the tax already imposed if they agree to donate at least 3 talents for every 100 talents of the crops they grow, or if merchants donate at least 3 shekels for every 100 shekels they earn. If need be, I will bring some of my harvest back from my land and feed the beggars of Susa myself. Sometimes, she thought, one must throw away copper in order to get gold. Why, Maiden Raka, replied the astonished emperor, you would actually do that? Raka grinned at the emperor's reaction. She already pictured herself in a richly ornamented gown, a towering crown, and gold jewels hanging from her hair. She could see but flower petals thrown at her feet, and she could hear the entire capital crying out her name. She humbly bowed. "I could leave tomorrow morning," she replied, "and return by the next full moon." "This truly pleases us," the emperor beamed. "Do this, and you will have our everlasting gratitude." "I will certainly keep your word, my grace," smiled Raka. After the feast, Raka marched triumphantly to her quarter and ordered her servants to pack all of her belongings, and they returned to the west the next morning. Upon her return to her palace, Raka put her servants right to work in building carts for carrying fruits and vegetables, and then she ordered that 1,000 minas of the grapes in her vineyard be picked, as well as 500 minas of her olives and 3,000 minas of the wheat in her storehouse. When everything was packed onto the carts, her caravan headed back to Susa. During the trip, Raka constantly daydreamed the king watching her from his balcony as she gave food to the beggars in the city, lined up in front of her carts. He would then go out to the street, kiss her hand, and declare that he knows no woman other than her who is more worthy to be his queen. She was so busy daydreaming that she did not say a word during the trip. This was a relief to her servants, as she kept chattering about the emperor on the way home and screaming orders when they were about to return. They were drawing closer to Susa when she heard someone call, "My lady! My lady!" When she lifted the curtain to her litter, she saw an old man dressed in rags. "What do you want, peasant?" Raka asked, with her nose in the air. "Please," he said, "be merciful to an old man. I am hungry. Could you please spare some of your wheat?" "Of course not," said Raka, offended. "Why should I give anything to a dog like you? This food is for the emperor. Away!" She closed the curtain and went back to her daydreaming. Moments later, she heard another person call, "Mercy, my lady! Mercy!" The voice belonged to an old woman, again dressed in rags. "Why do you call me?" asked Raka, becoming annoyed. "I beg of you," said the old woman, "may I please have some of your wheat, so that I may bake some bread for me and my husband? We are starving, but he is too old and sick to work." "You and your husband are not my concern," bellowed Raka. "You seem healthy enough. Go find work and stop begging." She then closed her curtain again, and the old woman went away. Soon after, she heard two people call, "Help us, lady." It was a poor man, his wife, and their infant. "And what is this?" she asked cruelly. "My lady," said the man, "I've been unable to find work, and we have no food. Look at my wife. She is so thin that she cannot give our child enough milk. If he is not nursed, he will die. Please be merciful and give us some food." "Please," the wife pleaded. Raka scoffed. "A young man like you cannot find work? Spare me your lies. You will get nothing from me." She turned away from them. "You are turning us away?" pleaded the young man. "You should be ashamed of yourself." "I have nothing to be ashamed of," said Raka, refusing to look at them. "Now, take your rodent child and leave my sight. Your stink sickens me." Not much later, two orphans, a little girl and her younger, crippled brother, approached Raka's litter. "Lady," the girl spoke, "my brother and I have no parents and no place to live. We are starving. May we please have a little of your food? We are children. We are children, so we only need a little." "Those grapes look tasty," added the little brother. "And none are for you," Raka bellowed. "Now go." "I thought she was supposed to give us something," the boy said to his sister. "How dare you!" Raka yelled. "I don't have to give you anything. Now go away, or I will make you both my slaves." Frightened, the little girl grabbed her brother's arm and they ran away. "The nerves of those little animals," she thought to herself. "The nerves of those others, too." For the rest of the day, children, older people, families, the sick, and even lepers came to her caravan, begging for food. She angrily turned them all away. When she was but an hour from Susa, two families approached her. By this time, she had had enough. She jumped out of her litter, grabbed Selah's whip, and drove them away, even hitting one of the children. When she had finally reached Susa, she was shocked to find that there were no beggars in sight. "But there were so many of them the last time I was here," she thought. What would have happened? She went to the citadel without hesitation. The guards promptly brought her to the emperor, who had been waiting for her. "Your Grace," she began, "I have brought the food I promised, but I noticed that all the beggars in this city are not here. Where have they gone?" "You foolish woman," the king replied. "When you announced the deed you would do at the feast, we told the people of Susa about it, including the beggars. We told them when you would return. They came out into the desert to greet you and to receive what you promised, but you turned them away coldly. Our messenger said you even beat a child." Raka was horrified when she realized her mistake. "But your Grace, how was I supposed to know that they were from this city? My donation, as we agreed, would be for the beggars of Susa." "You told us that you observed the beggars of this city. Did you not remember any of their faces?" "That would not matter anyway. A good person would help anyone in need, whether they live in the city or the country. We know why you agreed to feed the beggars of Susa. It is not because you are concerned for them, but because you heard the rumor that we are looking for a wife, which is true, and you honestly thought that by pleasing us, we would make you queen. But we are very displeased. You may be beautiful on the outside, but you are hideous on the inside. Your skin may smell of fragrance, but your heart rots like jackal bait. our less fortunate subjects shall receive the donation you have brought. Furthermore, soldiers have taken fast chariots and are right now riding to your territory in the west. Your land and palace will be sold, and all of the crops will be brought back to Susa and given to the poor. The same goes for all your robes and jewels. The money from the sale of your land and property will also be given to the very people you rejected. Your servants will be freed and even offered new positions in my citadel. Since you contently placed yourself above the poor, we will place them above you. You will spend the rest of your life serving them as their slave. We will use the idea you suggested at the feast, and you will personally feed all of the beggars in Susa. More than that, you will visit their homes and clean their latrines. This is your punishment. Raka, feeling devastated, fell to the floor and took hold of the emperor's feet. "Your Grace," she sobbed, "I have learned my lesson, and I am truly sorry. I will do whatever you say if you take these punishments away. Please, please, have mercy." "Mercy?" the emperor yelled, shaking loose from her grasp. "You did not have mercy on our subjects, so why should we have mercy on you? We should have you flogged just for using the word. Guards, take her away." So, it came to pass that Sela became one of the emperor's highest-ranking guards, and Nova became a lady-in-waiting for the new queen, and the other servants were freed. Raka, on the other hand, became the lowliest slave of the entire Persian Empire, serving food to the poor, cleaning their latrines, and wearing the rags she once shunned. She lives each day in torment for the rest of her life, mourning the riches and beauty that she had lost, and suffering the mockery of her former peers and even the beggars she served. And that is the story of the Foolish Maiden. So, I hope this lesson taught you how important it is to be nice to people, to be kind, merciful, and to respect them as humans. Also, I hope that this teaches you how to share with others. If you have plenty, then please share with those who have none. Because giving is twice blessed. Blessed are those that give, because they can give, and blessed are those who receive. And blessed are those because they give. So giving is triply blessed. So if you like this story, then come back next month for another one. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so that all of my new stories will show up in your feed. And until next time and next year, have a blessed Christmas and a Happy New Year.